promise, but I'll start again so everyone sees the slides. So
Great.
welcome to the 2023 Harriet Stephenson Business Plan Competition Workshop. This is Wednesday workshops. We're going to do it every Wednesday for the rest of the competition. And every other week will be on Zoom with me talking and time for Q&A. And then every Wednesday I'll have drop-in office hours in 432A in Piggott, and it'll also be on Zoom if you'd prefer to drop in and talk to me on Zoom from noon to 1. So I'm Peter Rowan. I'm the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center Executive Director. And so let me talk about what the BPC is. So it's an opportunity to create a business plan in any field. It doesn't matter whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit or a social enterprise, a lifestyle business, a venture scale business. All are welcome. And most importantly, it's a chance for you to build out a team. It's not a solo endeavor. Solo entrepreneurship is hard. So build out a good cross-functional team and it'll increase your chances of being successful. So there's a tremendous opportunity to get hands-on coaching and feedback throughout the program from coaches and mentors and judges. So the feedback can be highly valuable. And why do it in the first place? Well, you want to, if you're thinking about launching a business, this is a great way to validate the idea and develop a plan to do that. And then you'll also have access to the expert coaching and feedback throughout the process. We have many examples of participants saying it was one of the best and most valuable things they did while they were at Seattle U. The large community that participates includes many early stage investors and advisors. So it's a chance for you to get real connections to them. There's also several examples of companies that or startup teams that got their seed funding in meetings that happened as a result of participating in the business plan competition. So it's also a great way to get real world experience to launch your career, whether you're going to start your own company or go work in one of the great large companies in town or elsewhere. They're all looking for entrepreneurial experience. They're all looking for critical thinking. They're all looking for folks that can be innovators because they're facing, many of these big companies are facing disruption through technology, and they really want to bring people that can help drive them through that change. Also, there's great prize money, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So it can be your initial capital. It can also fund your vacation or pay off some of your student loans. So the big news for this year is that through a generous grant from a past participant and the successful entrepreneur Madeline Hayden and her husband Jeff. Madeline's the founder of Nut Pods, the non-dairy creamer you see in Whole Foods. Through a gift from them and combined with support from the Jones Foundation, we've increased the grand prize and the second place prize. We've doubled them from 10 and 5 to 20 and 10. So this is real money at stake here. There's also a long list of prizes. So there's a fairly decent chance if you participate that you're going to get some sort of cash prize, and you can see the prizes that are listed out here. So a quick look at the past winners. Last year, we had an alumni team win first prize from Elevate, which is a private dining reservation system. They're continuing on through the Jones Progress Awards Accelerator, our alumni accelerator, and they're also participating in the WTI Accelerator. So it was a great start for them, and they're continuing on their journey. Most of the companies I'm looking at here are up and running still. Vita Inclinata, the founder Caleb Carr is on a tear with that company. They've installed their systems, all across the world. And Edula, Bettina Peck, Dr. Peck will be with us next week in Founder Friday, and we'll talk to you about her rollout of this, the app she built. And I could go on and on. These are real companies that are continuing to exist, that got their start in the business plan competition or got support from the business plan competition. So the competition takes place in 3 rounds. Please note the dates. The first round starts with a deadline of March 21st when the screening round is due. So you're welcome to register now, which is an indication of interest in participating. The hard official deadline is March 21st, when you'll owe us a 2 to 3 page business plan summary. There's a template, a rubric, and many examples on the BPC website. So take a look at those, to see best practices. We have a large pool of judges that will judge this online. So each plan will get in front of 8 to 10 judges who will score it and decide whether it's worthy of moving on to the semifinals. So the semifinals take place on May 12th. That's an in-person event. There's 2 pieces to that. There's a fast pitch competition, which we do in Piggott Auditorium with a judging panel. And then there's a trade show format where we'll have 75 judges and community members talking to you, and you'll have a table set up like an exhibit hall. The combined score from those 2 events on May 12th, so the fast pitch plus the judges, the trade show, will determine who goes through to the finals. 4 teams will go to the finals. The semifinal judging will also determine who wins this long list of 8 or so other awards. So the finals are on June 2nd, and that's a 10-minute investor pitch with 7 to 9 judges from the community, many of whom are past Seattle U alumni who are now successful entrepreneurs in the community, or successful business leaders, or they might even be, in fact, they often are in the investing community, either seed stage investors or venture capitalists, angel investors, and so forth. So a little bit more of a kind of a repeat on the timeline, but just the order of things is, now is a great time to gear up and participate in workshops and get some personal coaching. Drop in on with me every Wednesday from noon to 1, or schedule a time with me and the rest of the team outside of that. So then again, the screening round entries are due on the 21st, and you'll get judging feedback. So regardless of whether you move forward, you're going to get written feedback back from the judges through the screening round. And then in the semifinal round, you'll be matched with a dedicated coach who will be with you through the rest of the competition and help provide feedback and input on your plan and your submission. And then the 4 finalists are actually offered several intense sessions of expert coaching. Folks that are sort of professional pitch coaches will come in and help polish your presentation, or really whip it into shape. And there's a huge improvement usually between the semifinal round and the final round. So, okay, let's go back to the beginning though, and you'll get a chance at the end to ask questions if you want about the technical details of the competition. But what is this? Where do we start? Well, you usually think we start with an idea. I woke up in the morning and I had a eureka moment, but it doesn't usually happen like that. So really the way we need to do it is study the problems that are out there, find out which people have those problems and could be potential customers, and design a solution that fits them. And that is a way to build a business. So the linear way we've been doing it for generations is, or telling you to do it for generations, which is the bottom row, that's wrong. Coming up with an idea, putting a lot of resources behind it, coming up with a plan, and then introducing it to customers before we know whether it's a real problem. That's a resource intensive and risky way to do it. So we're highly suggesting that you go out and talk to people now and get as much feedback as you can about the problem that you're trying to solve, and make sure that you're solving a problem that needs to be solved, that there's a real need out there in the world. So the first step then is to define the problem, and I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to go about that. And there's nothing dogmatic about this. You don't have to do it this way, but it's a way to do it. And there's plenty of other ways to go about it, but let me just talk about this. So start with the customer, and start with customer interviews to become an expert on the problem. So one way is to start with why. So the world has a lot of problems, and why do you care about this one? So you can back into this approach even if you are set on your idea. So you might have an idea and you're pretty far along with it, And I'm asking you, or recommending, that you go back and look at the why. So it could be from your personal experience. Many businesses are started from personal need or personal recognition of an opportunity. But the successful ones quickly go beyond that sample, that introspective sample, and they get feedback from other folks to make sure that other people have that same problem. One of my favorite stories is from Jens Molbach, who is the founder of Coinstar, which is the funny green coin counting machine you see in almost every grocery store. Is he worked for his grandparents' garden center, Molbach's, up in Woodinville, and he got paid in coins, and he got paid a penny a pot to wash pots. And so he had all these coins and he carried them around for years. And then he came up with the idea in business school for the Coinstar machine. But the first thing he did is he went to a Safeway in Palo Alto, and he stood in front of there. And over a course of 2 weeks, he interviewed 1,500 people. And he asked them, are you like me? Do you have coins? What do you do with those coins? Would you be willing to pay if you could bring them here to the grocery store and turn your coins into cash? So he de-risked the venture for himself, because most people thought that's kind of a goofy idea. Why would people want to pay money to turn their money into their money? But then by interviewing intensely a large group of people, he realized that this was a problem that he had a chance to solve. So I'll give you some examples from past winners about the personal experience that led to the business. So Vita Inclinata, which is drone stabilization technology, while he was working as a search and rescue person, a friend of his died on a mountain, and he died because he couldn't get rescued because the high winds wouldn't let the rescue baskets be lowered so this person could be medevaced. And so based on that personal experience, he designed a drone stabilization technology that combats the swing load under the medevac baskets, and also on cranes for construction and so forth. And so that it started with a very personal experience. Discovery Health, Ann Jarris, the founder, was a doctor, and her professional experience in the maritime industry exposed her to high death rates among maritime workers who couldn't get the proper health care. And so she designed Discovery Health as a specialized healthcare, medical care provider for the maritime industry. And then the founder of Madrone School was a parent of a child with autism, and felt that schools didn't adequately serve children with autism, and designed the Madrone School, which was a nonprofit that won the business plan competition in 2016. So you can see they did it from personal need. So here's a long list of other things that you might care about, or that people might care about. So big problems in the world, and why you might care about it more specifically. So when you take on big problems like poverty or global warming or something like that, you don't have to be solving the whole thing. You can be solving one specific aspect of it. But I think it makes sense for you to be inspired by problems that you see out in the world that you're drawn to. So, but drill down to great precision on the problem. So a problem statement might start with what is the problem, but it wouldn't be complete unless you also know who has that problem and why is it a problem for them. And furthermore, how big a problem is it? So I wouldn't recommend starting a business to solve a problem that exists for 6 people in the world, or a small group of people, because it might not be the business opportunity. That's something that is a problem that affects millions of people or more is. So I think there's a relationship between the significance of the opportunity and both the size of the problem in terms of how many people have it, and also how big a problem it is. So a good business might solve a small problem, like create a small convenience for a lot of people, or it might solve a massive issue for a small group of people. Those both can be great businesses, but you should think about your business in that way and not make the mistake of assuming that everyone is a customer, because everyone is not a customer for anything unless you sell oxygen and can deprive people of it somehow. So there's a technique you can find more about this, the 5 whys from Jake Mandel on this site. So, but it's a drill down exercise where you create an initial statement defining the problem and who has it, and then you ask yourself why through 5 cycles. And I'll give you a specific example here. So I have to move this. So, whoops. So here's a problem related to universities recruiting students, and you can see, and I won't read through each of these, but you can see that what we've done is we've drilled down 5 times on this problem so that we can really get to an actionable problem that we can solve. So by the time we get down to the 5th layer, we have some precision about this. And I would do this drill down of the 5 whys with the customers. So you're asking customers, why is this a problem for you? And, why does the problem exist? And why is it this way? And it's a very interesting way of doing a customer interview and really understanding the magnitude of the problem and the nature of it so that you can start to design a solution. So the steps then are, starting with the why, falling in love with the problem, becoming an expert on the problem, talking to customers to validate that problem exists out in the world, and then starting to think about the solution, start to think about the value proposition that you provide. So if you could make somebody's life easier by providing this solution, you can save them time, or you can save them money, or you can create an efficiency for a business, or you can introduce a new way of doing something that's an improved way of doing something. That's a value proposition. And then you can build a prototype of a basic minimum viable product, which is defined as it could be barbed wire and broken glass, but it does the thing, it delivers the value proposition. So it doesn't have to be full featured, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to deliver the value that you're proposing, and people will probably be willing to pay for it. So that's what you're trying to drive through in the business planning cycle. So you don't have to have a fully fleshed out plan for hiring and for operations and for technology and so forth. We're not really doing those anymore. But what you do have to convince judges is that there's traction in your business, that you have evidence out there that people will acquire your solution if you make it available to them. So I want to tell you a story about my first experiment in business. It's a little goofy and off topic, but I think and I backed into this idea of it being an experiment. So my first business in high school was a painting company. I wanted to live in Maine in the summer. And my parents said, you can only live up there if you have a job. I grew up in New York. So I thought, well, what can I do up there? No one's going to hire me for in this little fishing village. But I know how to paint houses because I've been working for my coach in high school as a house painter. So I came up with this theory about summer people. This was a town that had about 500 residents year round, and then it ballooned in the summer, and everyone came to these summer cottages like what we owned. And I spent a lot of time painting my parents' summer house. It seemed like it needed to be painted every summer. And so my theory was other people that owned summer cottages had this problem where their house needed to be painted, but since they only came for a few weeks a year, they didn't really have access to the service providers that could provide the house painting. And so I thought maybe I can do that. Maybe I can create a niche for myself, marketing house painting services to summer people. So I came up with this experiment. This is my best friend from high school, Mark, up on the roof there dangerously, with our very first house painting job. So I ran this experiment. I wrote a letter. This is on a dot matrix printer, the first year that the IBM PC came out. I don't know where I got this clever language because I don't remember being this skilled when I was 17. So I wrote this letter, and I got the tax records for the town, and the tax records were divided into permanent residents and temporary residents, and I had all of their names and addresses. And I sent all of the summer people, all of the non-residents, this letter. So it went out to 1,500-ish people, and that was 3,000 stamps. That was my investment. And I got 10 responses, which I don't think that's a great response, but it was enough for me to, because my go, no go experiment was, if I don't have at least one job, I won't go. My parents wouldn't let me live up there unless I had something to do. So I got 10 responses. I did 5 estimates over spring break, and I got 1 contract out of that. And but that led to 4 years of follow-on work. I had this business all through college. I had 2 crews, and it paid a lot of my college expenses. So this is Allison and Tracy, 2 sisters that worked for me 1 year, and apparently we didn't know how to keep the paint on the house, but we knew how to put it on ourselves. So the checklist, the startup checklist was, find a problem, become an expert on the problem, create a theory about that problem, and test that theory in the wild. So my theory was that summer people would hire someone who specialized in painting their houses, and that there was a group of people in that database sitting at home in Florida or wherever they were for the winter, thinking that they needed to have their house painted, but they're only up there 2 weeks a year, and so they couldn't get it organized. So that was my theory, which I tested, and it led to this business, which it's certainly not a high growth business, but you could see the nature of the experiment. So one thing I will emphasize is that you shouldn't fall in love with your idea, because you're not psychic. I'm not psychic. We don't know if these ideas are good ideas until they become good ideas, when we go out and test them in the wild, and we turn our theories into facts. So you do fall in love with the problem that way. So become an expert on the problem, because it could very well be that the solution that you're thinking about now isn't the solution that you end up bringing to market, because you've gotten the firsthand feedback from customers about their problem, and you end up solving it in a different way, or solving a different problem, perhaps even. So this requires empathy. So it requires you put yourself in the shoes of the customer and think about the way they live their life and the way they want to have their problem solved. And then you would proportion your investment in the venture based on the evidence that comes back from that customer discovery. So Steve Blank, who is the main proponent of the lean startup methodology, likes to say there's no answers in the building, get out of the building, go talk to real customers. So I'm almost done. I just want to point out that we're going to do these workshops every other Wednesday, starting today. So the next one's on February 1st. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about problem solution fit and how to build value propositions. And then every other week, we're going to meet again on Zoom and do that. In the intervening Wednesdays, I'll have office hours every Wednesday, 12 to 1. So you can find me at Piggott 432A or on this Zoom link if you don't want to come to campus. So I'll have the Zoom room open, I'll have my door open, and you can just drop in, and we can talk shop about how to put together a great business plan, competitive entry. I'm not a judge. I'm here to help everybody win, and I hope you'll take me up on that offer. So now we'll go to questions. Does anyone have any questions about what I went through?